Hey everyone, welcome to Modern Indie Artist Podcast, where I talk to independent musicians from all walks of life to explore their journey as a modern independent artist. And without further ado, we have Dusty Boles with us here today. He's the owner, entrepreneur of a new drum company called Drumnow and guitarist of Lone Wolf, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, man. So, man, how's your day? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, man, I'm good, dude. Just living life, you know. Other than that, man, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm great, man. The reason I wanted to talk to you, man, is because of Drumnow, the new drum company. You guys launched in January?
Yes, sir.
So you guys are like relatively new to the scene. What inspired you to want to start a drum company?
Yeah, good question, man. A little bit of my backstory might help explain this. But so I have a studio here in Denver, Colorado. I started doing this for one of my bands. I had a band on Sumerian years and years ago called Make Me Famous. We decided to kind of record and produce our own record. I think that was around like 2010. And at that time, there were bands doing it, but it certainly wasn't like as big as it is now. So it was really hard to find like all of the stuff that you can kind of find like right now. Like, and I guess I mean like plugins and help and YouTube videos and stuff like that. We didn't have like a lot of money for our recording budget, and 4/5 of my band, excluding myself, was actually from the Ukraine. So we decided to keep our recording budget, put it into other things like traveling costs, stage production, vehicle rentals, and etc. You know, I'd been messing around, and so one of my other band members with production for a little bit. So we were kind of hit with like the option, like, hey, we should probably do this on our own, and we did. So that was like my first really my step into audio production. I'd been doing it at a small level. You know, we kind of like combined our heads. We recorded our album and we mixed it all of ourselves, and we kind of just A/B'd certain mixes that we liked at the time, which were like anything Joey Sturgis was doing at the time was just phenomenal, very crisp and very new. That kind of got me into like the recording world. I saw right away there was like a gap. It was really hard to figure out how to record really good sounding drums or how to program really good sounding drums and make them sound real. You know, at the time, and this is very funny considering where I'm at right now with things, I was using WAV files to actually program my drums. And I did that on the Make Me Famous record. And it's funny that nobody really ever, said anything about that to me. If you know anything about this world, you understand what I'm saying. Like, they were one shots. So they were basically the same sample over and over.
So you'd have to like copy paste over like to the grid.
Exactly. Now, things are so much different that like you can round robin 30 samples in one single like group. It wasn't like that back in the day when I was, doing that at that level. Programming drums seemed to be kind of a nuisance and very time consuming. I mean, it would take me 2 or 3 days to get the drums perfect and spot on. And so I was like, man, this is 12 years ago probably. I was like, dude, I wish there was like software out there that, like I could just type in like a database and find like the drums that I want and bring them in to my session. It'd be so much easier. Fast forward to 2016, I had stopped touring. I had a son on the way, and my son was actually born in 2017. I just opened my studio in Denver. I had moved here. I met a guy here who is now my partner in Drumnow. He's a drummer, and he's really into like the same music that I am. And I was recording his band at the time. We just started talking one day. The guys left the room to go for like a smoke break, and him and I kind of stood back. I remember him telling me that he was a software engineer and that he was developing like apps for, at the time, it was like something crazy like First Bank or Wells Fargo or something. And I was, wow, dude, so insane. And I told him about this idea about Drumnow. I want some sort of app to where people can just go and type in like a drum loop that they want. And this is pretty much like the wording that I used. Hey, if you could just type in like Slipknot or Joey Jordison, and then like loops will start associating with that genre of music, and they could be like MIDI or MP3. Long story short, he really vibed the idea, and we started talking more. And then around 2018, we'd started developing Drumnow. I would say about the end of 2017 to about 2019, and we really did our research, the amount of shit that we had to do as far as like get attorneys on board, and we brought in another software engineer, and then it kind of molded into this idea of like, okay, now we're going to start getting big drummers and using their drum loops. I'm going to bring these drummers to my studio, and I'm going to set them free and be like, hey, do everything you want in certain tempos, and then we're going to mix the loops and we're going to sell them, and you get a portion and everybody wins. So that that happened during our beta phase. phase. We officially went into a beta phase from 2020 to 2021 during the pandemic. Right when the pandemic hit is right when our beta phase launched. So it was really interesting. It kind of fell upon deaf ears, but it still got us where we needed to be. I think we launched with our very first artist, who was a super good friend of mine, and that's Josh Miller, Baby J from Amir. Very talented guy. He came out to Denver and we tracked his pack. It ended up being 4 or 5 different tempos. It was just a huge success. From then there on, we ended up getting more drummers. We've got Pablo from Chelsea Gren. We've got Sam from Vel of Maya. Devine Copperwise from Inthios, who used to be in Animals Leaders, phenomenal drummer. Someone you might know, Alex Ballou of Era.
Yeah, I got a question pertaining to that in a bit. But yeah, dude, that's awesome, dude. The story behind it. So you do this full time now? As like aside from, touring and stuff, this is your full-time thing?
Yeah, it's definitely turned into my full-time thing, and I couldn't be more blessed for that. And I couldn't do this without the other guys there. We have a really good team, and we're very consistent. We've got it kind of figured out now. We, like I said, our beta phase was very successful, and it kind of taught us what needed to happen, what needed to break, what needed to fix, and so many different things as a beta should do. And then moving into 2022, we went live fully in January. It's just been a roller coaster since, man. I mean, it's crazy. We're just really happy, and we're growing. And, we just want to help people, and that's continuing to evolve in so many cool ways. I remember thinking, as I got better at being an audio engineer, and I've been doing this, for 10 plus years now at a level to where I'm thankfully feed my family. And there's certain things that I saw and I still see along the way, that it just makes things hard for the average person, and that's very frustrating because there's a lot of people who have really good ideas out there, and I think that they need things simplified. And I think we're moving into an age right now to where, and you could probably speak on this yourself, technology once was so, especially with recording and things like that, was so mystique at one point, and now it's becoming so accessible. Yeah.
When I started, man, it was plugins were barely a thing. For real. And I had to record on little digital recorders that you would just buy at a music store or whatever, or a 8-track or, the little tape thing. I started early, dude, on all the analog gear, whatever. But now, I'm straight in the box, with plugins and stuff. It's come a long way.
It's hard not to be in the box when the software is so crisp and so good. I think that's where I saw, hey, man, people just want to come home from their 9 to 5 and play guitar with a sick drummer. Even though software is becoming very simple, it still takes a lot to run that software. To run a Steven Slate drums or something, that's going to take a decent CPU. A lot of people might not have that type of money to throw into a computer or even learn how to route those drums. Routing those drums to a digital mixer to where each channel is then manipulatable is very difficult, and it's pretty damn time consuming. What we do is we're bridging that gap. We're making things a little bit more simple for the average person. And then, even the more advanced users, those guys are still using our products. We see a lot of dudes on Instagram who are just throwing out videos on the daily, who are very successful with their social medias. You could tell they're really good, and you could tell their mixes are really good. And, we see what they get, and they boom, they want midis, they want this, they want that. Whereas some guitar players who work the 9 to 5 and they come home and they just want to pull up their combo amp, those guys are buying the MP3s because they're already mixed. Just drag and drop them into free software, like Audacity or something like that. So we see a mixture of the two, and I think that's really cool.
That's a good point, man. I like that. And I like also what you said about you found a need, you found a gap there. You wanted to fill it. You wanted to help people. And I think that's admirable. It pertains to both types of users, people that just want to put it in their DAW and go, or people that are more advanced. They want to do the routing, like you said, the multi-outing with the drums and manipulate the MIDI the way they want or whatever. It's for everybody, and that's what I love about it. It's not just for beginners, it's for experts and beginners. So that's pretty cool, man.
I appreciate that, man. It is cool, I think, to see the people using the MP3s more than the MIDIs to me, because it's kind of dialing it back to back in the day. The type of songwriter who's just trying to get it out, they want to get that idea out. For me, how it hinders my process, and I'm interested to see what you have, how this works for you too. But if I start programming drums, my initial riff idea that I had in mind completely alters. Because I hear these drums now and I'm like, oh, well, this is altering for maybe the better now that I hear what I've just created with these drums versus what I would write rather off a pre-recorded drum loop. There's definitely a difference there for sure.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, like how I would use Drumnow, basically like that. I'm the type of guitar player where the grooves are cool, you know, like pick a tempo and go. Once you've got your idea, you kind of want to expand on that with different syncopated rhythms and whatnot. So I would actually take the Midi, import that in, and then just kind of tweak it to match whatever I was writing at the time. But that's really cool, though, because you can just start with like basically a skeleton of a beat and then mold it into what you want it to be. It helps with inspiration. So I can't wait to dive into the packs, man, and really just see what I can do with them.
Yeah, let me know what you think. You know, if you need any tutorials, you know, our Instagram and our social medias are full with people who are, you know, repping Drumnow, and all these phenomenal guitar players completely blow my mind on like Instagram and our Facebook community. These guys are so good and they're so nice, like to one another. And, you know, I see like from time to time on like the Drumnow community page, Drumnow users like helping new users. It's so sick to hear their ideas and hear like these Drumnow loops in a full production. It's actually mind-altering to me.
I bet
Appreciate that, man.
No problem, man. And I bet that's really cool to see, just like the community behind it. That's must be an amazing feeling, man. Kudos, congrats on that, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So Alex, you know, my former bandmate from Era, how did you meet him and how did that whole thing come about to have him do a drum pack for Drumnow?
I want to say I met him through Josh from Amir. I know those dudes are pretty tight. I think we were here in Denver one day and I think we were shooting something for Drumnow. And I'm talking about Josh Travis, not Baby J. Baby J ended up like putting us in contact, but I think I met him through Josh Travis. Josh introduced me, and so I started talking to Alex. I was like, hey man, you know, we should totally link up. I love your sound. You know, without sounding kind of rude when I said this, I can't forget how I worded it, but I was like, I think you're a very overlooked musician. You know, I want to try to bring that to people's attention and let them jam with you for the first time. And, you know, he dug it, and he ended up coming out to Denver, and, you know, we spent the better part of 2 days dialing in his pack, and it was great, man. He's so much better than I thought that he would be. You know, I mean, I knew that he was sick. I was like, this dude's awesome. To just like hear him jam, and, you know, obviously I'm the one who engineered and mixed his loops, but it was a pleasure doing it. He was just so good, and he's such a nice dude, man. So he's been a good homie now for, I'd say, about 5 years.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Alex is a sweet guy, man. He's always been a sweet guy and super talented, so good at drums, super cool dude. I still keep in touch with him and Jesse as well. Your guy, Tyler, he sent me the Alex pack, and when I was like jamming with it for the first time, it was kind of weird. It's my old bandmate. So it was like I was jamming with him again, like unofficially, so it was weird, but it was cool, man. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that you had like so many different tempo choices. 130 all the way to what was it, 180?
I believe so, yeah.
And there was like within each tempo was like huge array of rhythms. And I can't wait to dive into, like, for real, dude. Like, I'm so stoked to like create something with this and show you guys.
I'm stoked to hear what you do, man.
You kind of answered this already a little bit. I guess maybe you can expand on it a little bit. What do you think Drumnow does differently than other drum programs? Like, what do you think is going to set you guys apart? Like the definite thing?
I think that we don't really look at it as like, you know, competitors or anything like that, knowingly that some of these other companies offer like groove packs and things like that. There's room for everybody to eat here. And I think that what we do, we're focusing, you know, to where a lot of these companies, they focus like grooves within inside their own product, so their own plugin. Those are useful for sure. I mean, when you got like Easy Drummer doing things like that, that's really, really cool. And Drumnow is not really software. You know, we're a software company, we're a tech, obviously, but you know, what we're providing is essentially MIDIs and MP3s. You know, we don't have a standalone product that you need to have, you know, X amount of space for on a computer build that might cost you $2,500 to $3,000 plus. You know, you can actually go to our website and preview the loop that you want even before you were to download it. So we're obviously not like a plugin, and that's kind of the whole message with Drumnow, or one of them is, you know, you don't need all that expensive stuff to run our software. If anything, you can use our MIDIs to enhance your to enhance your playing or your grooves on the expensive stuff. And we also provide, you know, big name drummers, and that's something that, you know, from day one has, you know, our doors have just flooded with people who want to, like you're saying, you know, jamming with Alex from Era. When you actually jam with one of the drummers that we have, when you when you load their loops in, you'll see how they differ from just like an actual MIDI groove, because it's like the one that was programmed. There's a certain sense of organic, you feel that organicness, you feel like, oh, I'm actually grooving right now with something real. And I think on Alex's pack in particular, going back to that, he's got that for sure. Like you feel it, it's just a whole different experience for me. We're also a subscription-based platform. You're not paying hundreds of dollars to download any sort of software. We're $10 a month, and our database is updated 2 to 3 times a week. You could preview before you buy, and it's really, really cool. We don't look at anybody as competition. If anything, man, we're hyping everybody else up too, dude. And, our products, if you open our packs, you'll see that the Midis are already mapped to kind of the big players in the game, players that we respect. Superior Drummer and Steven Slate, Get Good Drums. So for instance, if you're using one of those products like Steven Slate, for instance, you could buy a pack, you open the pack, and then boom, there are the loops already mapped to Steven Slate drums. So you just drag and drop in and they're good to go. The velocities are there, everything's set.
Super easy to use, man. I love that. And I love the fact that it's not a plugin. That's a huge selling point for me. You're right. The beginners and the people just starting, they're not going to want to mess with the technical side of it. Another reason is because they might not have the gear. They're just going to load up the MP3. So that's really cool.
Not to say that Drumnow will not have a standalone version of a software that could be a plugin. Mm-hmm. I mean, we may or may not be working on something like that. If we do move into something like that to essentially better the experience for the user, there are benefits, I think, to having like standalone software. And we will always have this option to where you can essentially just download, drag and drop, because it doesn't get any easier than that.
For sure, man. So what's one of the biggest goals for Drumnow in the next 5 years?
Oh, gosh. As long as we're helping people at the end of the day and we continue to get in the news feeds and in the ear of the people who need us most, I'm always going to be happy, because I know firsthand, and I know you do as well, how hard it can be if you don't have the knowledge that gear nerds like us have. Respectively, we had to pay our dues and earn this type of stuff. For a lot of people out there, there's a lot of good-hearted, good musicians out there that just don't have the time. They're raising families and they have careers. I can't tell you how many people I know in my life have been very, very talented guitar players, but they've kind of given up on it. They don't play as much just because technology seems to be almost like intimidating. And I understand this. As long as we continue to fall on the laps of people who need us most, I'm always going to be happy. From a business owner side of things, of course, I would love to see Drumnow be an industry standard. I mean, that would be phenomenal. We approach this with the attitude of like, hey, we respect everybody. Think from the sidelines that, we might be a competitor with this and that. That's not the case at all, man. We're all in it for the same reason. Drumnow is growing at a very high rate, and I couldn't be happier. We're doing our first festival this year. We're doing Irate Fest in Kentucky, 26th and 27th and 28th of August. I'm actually going to be on tour, so I'm not going to be there. We are going to have a Drumnow tent. We're one of the vendors, so we're sponsoring that festival. There's a lot of cool bands playing. I think Impending Doom, Madball, Oceano, a lot of heavier bands are playing, so it's kind of like our crowd. We're bringing like the Drumnow experience to the show. So basically you can like come up to our tent and throw on some headphones, and we'll have a guitar for you, and you can actually mess around on a DAW in real time and move our loops around and kind of see what you think about it. That's where I've really wanted to dip my toes into for a while, is moving into that phase of like fest, going to big shows like that, just so people in that moment who possess like guitar abilities and songwriting abilities, who are getting so motivated by watching these bands. I think that it's such a good time to connect with that consumer and be like, hey, check it out, man, this could help you. If not, totally cool. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I saw that flyer for the Irate Fest in Kentucky. It's actually pretty close to me. I'm like 5 hours away from that fest. Who's running the tent for that event?
We're going to have one of our guys, Brad, is going to be there. Tyler is going to be there. One of our employees, Frank, is going to be there. We're going to have 3 to 4 guys there. They're going to kind of be doing different things. We have one guy who's going to be kind of showcasing the product. Hey, this is how it works. And for changeover, when bands are setting up and whatever, we also have a PA. So essentially we can just take out like the headphones. We have like a little interface for things like this. And we're going to plug into that PA. So a little bit more, it could be louder for a lot more people.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like a lot of fun, man. And I love the product. Like so far of what I've had time to mess around with, it's sick. And I can't wait to kind of sink my teeth into it a little more. And thank you, dude, for coming and talking about Drumnow. I think it's going to be a success, man. I think I heard what put you guys on the map for me was the Alex Pack. I'm a part of like this group on Facebook for my old band. People were like posting about it, Alex drum pack and Drumnow. And I was just like, what is this? I checked it out. And then I texted Alex and I was like, yo, what is this drum pack thing? And he's like, oh yeah, dude. We just started talking about it. But yeah, dude, it's cool how it's kind of come around where I'm like interviewing you and like having a chance to work with the product. So thank you, man.
Of course, dude. And thank you, man. I appreciate it very much, dude.
Yeah, no problem, man. Is there anything that you want to talk about, like as far as like a future product or something that you guys may be working out, something that's maybe coming out soon?
We are working on the plugin right now, something that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's kind of like a MIDI guitar simulator. And there's some good ones out there. I feel like there's just something that we can kind of come in and do a little bit differently. Some of these products, I've noticed that they're not necessarily focused on like the DI at hand. There's things that we want to bring to the table in a future product like that. And, for instance, certain pickups, recording the DI on a baritone and having the choice to essentially program that, MIDI guitar through either PRS or like a baritone with like Fishman's, I think things like that certainly alter the sound. And right now, and there's other things too, and this is such new technology. There's only a couple companies that have done this type of thing and they're all killing it. It's so cool to see. We want to move into the plug-in side of things, but more so, again, things that can help like this situation. Eventually, when you asked me a few minutes ago about, 5 years from now, I guess this could kind of correlate with that answer. We would love to be kind of like a one-stop shop for people, whether it be a drummer who doesn't have the ability to get their ideas out to the rest of their band, and they can do it pretty quickly and pretty easily with Drumnow. Or if it's a guitar player who just flat out doesn't know a drummer, you know what I mean? And again, who doesn't have the ability to pay for the software to program the drums and the time to learn how to do all that stuff. Or in this case, if it's a singer who could just grab the drum loops, program the guitar, program the bass. It's funny because on one hand, me coming from the background that I do, you could probably relate to this as well. Writing music back in the day, pre all of this, was just dudes in a garage.
Very organic, yes.
And there's something to be said about that. And I love that bands like, Foo Fighters, and they still carry that torch. I used to be an advocate for, analog recording when I first got into it. I was like, no, I'm not going to sell out and do it. And like you said, now I'm all in the box. And so it's kind of the same thing with Drumnow. One half of me is like, oh my gosh, like you're out here making this so easy for people. But at the same time, like, well, a new breed of musicians will come out of this. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're here, man. They're already here. They're recording with plugins. Yeah. And companies like yours, it's going to be the future, man. And I'm excited, dude. Everything you just said about like the guitar stuff, I'm all about that. That's something that I feel like there's a need for too. Drummers out there that can't find a guitar player. They're going to be like, okay, let me get this Guitar Now plugin, whatever you're going to call it. Just program some MIDI over his drums. So like you're going to be able to help a lot more than just drummers. Dude, I got a suggestion off the record. Yeah. If you should get like another drum pack, like another big drummer, I'd like to suggest Anoop Sastry.
Oh,
I'm saying his name right. It's a phenomenal drummer. In the gent scene, like the people in my scene, they would love that, man. That would be like no brainer.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, man. He is a great musician. We've definitely tossed names like that around. We've got a couple more releases this year, and then I think we're gonna probably start figuring out who's the next guy here. Anoop is nasty, man. That's a very good suggestion. I appreciate that.
I love that dude's drum. Like, it's funny because I'm a guitar player. In my head, I feel like I'm a drummer because I think like a drummer. And Anoop just top notch, man. And he's like one of my drum heroes, and I'm not even a drummer.
Yeah, dude, he's great, man. That whole genre of music is filled, and clearly because it's pretty damn complex, but it's just filled with phenomenal drummers. Matt Halpern, and there's so many drummers who I would love to get for Drumnow. Also, just as a fan, would love to jam with myself. I don't know his name, but the drummer for Tesseract, he's also really, really good.
Oh, dang, dude, I follow him on Instagram. I forget his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's good.
He's got like a very commercial, jazzy. Yeah, he's good, man. He's one I would definitely love to jam with his stuff, man, for sure.
Yeah, Tesseract. Oh my God, dude. Both of those packs would kill. I'd be like the first one to demo in those packs.
Yeah, dude. If we can make it happen, then yeah, we'll definitely send that to you to demo for sure.
Awesome, man.
I'll be demoing that one too, for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I won't hold you up too much, man. I know you're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy as well, so I don't want to keep you too much. But thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. You as well, dude.
All right, later.
Later, man.